Hello, warm welcome. Very wonderful to connect, and we would like to invite you to share space with a short drill. So we can start. Just check that it is.
Happy. Kademai. Happy kadesi. Yari.
Warm welcome. It's amazing how it's just simple, one soul that is staying in this space of truth, and how much appreciation there is for the experience, because it's like a clean mirror showing the truth of all souls. And it's a relief, I think, when something is simple, it's often beautiful. And the simplicity of just the soul staying in that awake space, which we can experience often in these drills. And yesterday, Roop Basant was mentioned to stay in sense and essence, and sense being knowledge, and essence, the power, and emphasis was on experiencing being beyond harm. And what does that mean? And reflecting on it, that the soul is this invisible traveler. And this is an amazing 3D drama film, but the essence is the power of the soul is to be able to experience it, and doesn't need to go into the spiral of confusion and create attachments and identity. So it was a very consolidating and essenceful session yesterday. It'd be lovely to hear what you've been reflecting on, and meanwhile I'll hand over to Basant, and also mentioned that later we'll be joined by Sidesh Didi. So enjoy and welcome.
Thank you, and hello and good evening. What we have seen so far is the beautiful option for the individual. That we saw the contrast between the insect in that patch of mud or the eagle. And the options we have are even bigger. The contrast is even bigger. We speak about noble and angel in the world of immortality. And the other side, the beggar and the victim. So it's a huge contrast there. We need to be prepared for the radical nature of the shift. It's beautiful, it is nice, but the scale of this is extraordinary. And that is why we need that different intellect. We use the word paras and broad intellect, unlimited intellect. It's a different game altogether. And we need to be prepared. We are not trying to make the insect a little bit better insect, holy insect, or some virtues. We are not aiming that. We are going for a new consciousness. And what we say is new, we are also seeing it as normal for us. And this present is abnormal. The body consciousness and ego consciousness, we see that as abnormal. For the stone intellect, Pattar, it appears normal. The whole thing, even our scientists will say, they say animals behave like this, so it is normal. But when we see with paras, it appears how absurd to go to that level. An eagle thinking it is a insect, it is a huge drop. Let us create a few minutes of attention right now. And always we don't, sort of haggle on this, whether we should use paras or not. Paras should be natural for us. And then for the paras, to see the perspective of the soul becomes easy. because paras includes subtle intellect. It includes broad but also subtle. And right now we are seeing this body in the image of a car, and the soul is like the driver of this car. And these eyes are like the windows. And this driver, invisible driver, is seated behind these windows. And right now, if we are experiencing images and we see the zoom screen, and if we are seeing colors, who is making sense of all this? This tiny invisible point, the driver, seated behind his eyes. He's observing this, he's experiencing it. And if we are hearing sound and we make sense of the words that we hear, who is making sense of these words? Who wants to hear it in the first place? It is that invisible driver seated behind the eyes. He's also making sense of the sensations of the body. If we are seated anywhere, the posture and pressure, different joints, who is aware of it? The driver. We are seeing with amazement that this tiny point, the driver, he is experiencing this whole thing at the moment. And this invisible driver is also the invisible guest. He's a guest in this body. He's also a guest in this world. Invisible driver belongs to a different world. That is why he is carefree and secure. Criticism of the car is not the criticism of the driver. Even the absence of the car is not the absence of the driver. He knows of this very clearly. The driver is aware of his immortality and eternity of his world. So what are we doing when we are creating this time and creating this awareness? What are we doing? We are helping this invisible driver to wake up. When this soul is not conscious, then the ego is conscious. Give me just here. There is no third party. If the soul is not conscious, ego is conscious, and then ego thinks the body is the driver. Ego is based on something. when the soul is not conscious, ego remains conscious. And ego is the product of ignorance. So we don't want king of our life and king of this mind to be confused and ignorant. That is why we want to bring the soul, make him conscious. And with that comes his wisdom. To start with, he understands the bigger map. That's a huge difference. He understands the true home and true family. When the soul is conscious, he knows who the real person is and what the story is. So the ignorance of the ego is not a small ignorance. It is a major delusion. And this shift has huge repercussions through the cycle. Every minute we bring this, we prod the soul, we pay attention to the soul. It is helping him to become conscious. So the last few minutes, we saw the soul in the image of the driver. Another time we might see the soul in the image of the traveler, in different images. Baba gives this cluster of practices. Sometimes remember the home. Sometimes see yourself as an incarnate. And all these practices are aimed to help the soul become conscious, and then let it be natural for him. As the soul becomes conscious, ego becomes weaker. This is our direction. Excellent. May I ask, how was the attention in the last 5 minutes? Who had 100% attention? You can raise your hands. 90 to 100% is good score. Oh, some are raising hands.
More hands when you said 90 to 100. Some are saying half. Oh, lots more hands coming. That's good.
Excellent. So I will be using the board. We are here for this game, and we have used this word beautiful, remaining beautiful, Roop and Basant. The scale of this beauty of the soul is enormous, where there is nothing inauspicious. And we used these expressions last few days. He needs nothing and he is beyond harm. He is immortal without any needs, and nothing can harm him. If any person comes to that realization, he becomes very innocent. Ordinarily, in our body conscious state, no, ego, we saw ego is forever in the victim state. But here, the soul one who is conscious, even if someone doesn't believe in the soul. And here, our process is not based on belief. In various sessions, we saw from many angles the rational approach to this, rational understanding. But we need to come to that realization how absurd body consciousness is, how absurd ego is. And we want to grow in the soul consciousness. But imagine someone has a real resistance there to use the word soul or to practice anything spiritual. Still, it is possible for him to play with it for 2 minutes. Just play with this thought experiment. And what is the thought experiment? What if someone comes to this planet and he is beyond harm? That invisible guest comes on this planet and nothing of this planet can harm him. He's going to go back. He doesn't need anything. You are just having a thought experiment, and you will experience super sensuous experiences. You will instant. Here I'm talking of someone who doesn't even want to know anything to do with spirituality. Still, he will come in these experiences. He will experience that original contentment, original peace, because there is no need to say I. The moment you are seeing that perspective of a traveler, just as if you are watching a film, just as you are watching, you also feel what is happening on the screen. Something within you identifies, and you experience fear. Some people start crying. Nothing is happening to you. You are just watching, but you get into the experience. Same thing happens here. You will come to know what the scale of the beauty is of the soul who knows he is beyond harm, who is immortal, and who needs nothing. And once you are in that space, it becomes a positive spiral. You discover that sense of security. Security leads to higher peace. Security leads to happiness. All these other experiences follow. Let us create another couple of minutes in this. Some images are useful for our practice. Here we are reminding the journey of the soul, invisible traveler passing through this physical world and life. We start from there. We always start from the sky. He's the invisible prince there in the sky, and he is temporarily passing through this world. And in this physical level, there is a body and there are people, lots going on in this drama. The invisible traveler existed before this body was born. Before Prashant was born, the invisible traveler was there. Invisible traveler will continue to be there and his complete world will be 100% intact when the body is not there. And the episode also finishes. Drama episode finishes. Still, the invisible traveler remains the same. He's still there. His world is intact. Nothing changes. In between, many things happen in this. We see that as only extra. It is an extra experiences. Variety. Lots going on in the story. If the world of the invisible traveler is 100% intact, he himself remains the same. What is there to worry about, and what is there to complain about? All that remains is appreciation of variety of experiences. That is all that happens during this roller coaster ride, variety of rich experiences. Such is the perspective of the soul who is conscious, awake. Perspective from the soul. Thank you. All along we are seeing 180 degrees turned round. This is necessary. We are not seeing the soul, but soul is seeing. The soul is seeing the drama. Soul is seeing the story. If that attention is not paid actively, if we are not starting from the invisible traveler, even during your spiritual effort, the ego rules the life. It is all perspective from Prashant. It is perspective from the story. And from that perspective, we do not get, it is not, you will not experience the beautiful soul. The ego can pretend, but we are saying ego has to be removed to discover the inner beauty. When the soul is seeing from that perspective, from beyond, and understands that he needs nothing and lacks nothing, his whole gamut of experiences, they follow. And these include his contentment, full contentment. He needs nothing. He is the only one who knows real what contentment is. He is the one who experiences peace. He is the one who experiences silent bliss. Everything is good. Everyone is good. This is the perspective from the invisible traveler who understands down below is a story. Story is good. He feels everything is perfect. His home is perfect. Father is perfect. Every soul is perfect. And Iron Age is a perfect Iron Age. Iron Age, you will see Iron Age plots. And they're perfect. Just as if you are seeing Mickey Mouse cartoon, you will say it is a perfect cartoon. You will not say it shouldn't be like this. And that's a cartoon. It is meant to be a joke. So in the Iron Age, you will see perfect Iron Age. The perspective from where he's seeing, he feels things are perfect. He feels full. And of course, the soul that is awake, he is viceless, he is egoless, he is sorrowless. Then we can call it beautiful. This state of the soul is the same under all provocations. So-called provocations are only provocations in the story. If someone is free from the story, then he is free. There are no provocations. If you are watching James Bond and James Bond is outrageous, promises one thing and does something else, do you feel disturbed? You say it is a story. You don't feel provoked because you are free. Only if you create a bondage, that story will bother you. The invisible traveler is free from the story, 100% free. How he is free? Just with understanding. Our whole foundation is Jnana Yajna. It is with understanding you are dissolving the ego. You understand the absurdity of the whole behavior. And that is what the fire is. One friend of ours from Finland, just today, in the past, she had depression, and now and then the depression would come back again. And recently she came across these ideas, and she realized, the statement she made is, my ego is depressed. That is a nice way of putting it. They said it is not my problem. It is the ego that is depressed. And that is a very accurate statement. It is ego that gets angry. It is ego, as all problems are of the ego. And the moment she understood this, she was able to distance herself, step out of it. It is not I am who is depressed. It is ego that is bothered about something. Ego is the one who craves for something. It is not my need. It is the need of the ego. And ego is the enemy. So you are able to step away from it. And it's a beautiful step for all of us. It doesn't mean ego will go and that depression will go, but it is a step, and definitely powerful step. If depression has not disappeared, it will definitely become weaker. You want to add anything? Say anything?
One comment in the chat, it is the perfect Iron Age and it's meant to be like it is and meant to be a joke. It was written. I wanted to ask on this topic that I absolutely can resonate with. We are distancing ourselves and we can see that all sorrow is ego. Ego is taking the sorrow. But if one is new to these ideas or coming from another spiritual background, sometimes this phrase is used, spiritual bypassing. Would you like to say a little bit about that?
Sure. You want to expand a little bit more on this? What is spiritual bypassing?
Well, my understanding, and you may like to clarify, but it is when it is said that those some are using spirituality to somehow repress and not deal with things. So it's like going above the situation, but also maybe not dealing with things and maybe too much.
Sure.
Attached, but you may have.
Yeah. Sometimes, people feel you need to go through therapy and psychotherapy, and then you have really dealt with, say someone dies in the family. They say there will be sorrow inside. If you just say, no, it is souls, and you just remain light about it, that sorrow gets suppressed inside and it will create problems. So you have to go to the therapist, and then you have dealt with it properly. Otherwise, it is spiritual bypassing. And the concept, spiritual bypassing may exist somewhere. Of course, there will be people who talk of something like this in a superficial way, and things may get suppressed or repressed. But when they are saying it has to be dealt with properly, you deal with it properly only if you remove the ego. As we said, it is the ego that is taking sorrow. It is ego that feels, for the story matters. Every little thing that happens in the story matters to the ego. And ego has to be removed. Then it is not spiritual bypassing. If I do therapy and I don't even know about the ego, and I don't know how to replace ego, ego can be replaced only by soul consciousness. Then, in the name of therapy, I am doing the bypassing. It would be therapy bypassing, not spiritual bypassing. Agree, Sarah? It is psychotherapy bypassing. We will be dealing with the situation only if soul consciousness is brought in. You nourish the soul, and then ego, real illness is removed. And then you are not bypassing anything. You are dealt with the problem for good, forever.
Yeah, I agree, because otherwise we're reshuffling, and it's like one ego to another, depends on what state one ego is in. We need a replacement, and with spirituality, it is coming back to truth, and that real repressing here is of the angelic soul, and we want to reawaken that which replaces all the falsehood. And I'm not sure we have a question. Does it mean the soul is Sato Pradhan? It's at that stage, maybe when we are seeing the drama as perfect, and we are in that stage of detachment. I think that's what is meant. Maybe it could be clarified, but would you like to say a bit more about Sato Pradhan?
The answer is yes. Soul that is conscious, soul that experiences that complete freedom from the story. Nothing in the story can create in him, any kinds of sorrows or disturbance of any kind. And then that individual is Sato Pradhan. At all levels, you will discover it expresses in different ways. At present, we are students. We are creating time to nourish that. So every minute you are creating, congratulate yourselves. Don't say that I have to be like that. I have to remove this beggar, and I have to remove this victim, and how I need so much time now. No, create 1 minute of various things we spoke about, and what you hear in the Murlis. Choose some practices. Create 1 minute of quality and congratulate yourself. Don't say I wasted 10 minutes. No, you created 1 minute. Great. Create another 1 minute, and you are going up the spiral. Congratulate yourself all along. As you go up, you will understand the other things that you read in the Murli, you will understand its deeper meaning. And they all, that's why upward spiral. Once you go up, that helps you to understand the next step. That helps you understand the Murlis better. So it all complements each other. I want to come to another aspect here for us, homework for this next month. And we are students and we want to bring about change, and you also want to help others. So if you are to help others or even help yourself, we need to know what is the diagnosis. What would you say is the diagnosis? So you are the expert, you are brought to this planet Earth, and you want to help this planet Earth. President Biden has invited you, so you come here to fix this planet. First, you need to have a diagnosis. No? So the president asks you, what is the diagnosis? So what will you tell? You can type.
Budding spiritual doctors are thinking. Amnesia is one.
Yes, sure.
It's a good diagnosis. Maybe there are others. Body consciousness and ignorance of the whole picture, a distraction disease or delusion. So
Good,
I might
very good. I would say, because the expert who has come, he obviously knows the real people. He knows this, the invisible player, he knows this. So his diagnosis is, at present, 100% of these invisible players are confused. It is a gentle word. Everyone has crossed a line and they don't even know the story as story. Then it is a confusion. They are confused. That is one observation. Second is, they all are in bondage. They are into the web, trapped in the web. That's why slightest thing that happens in the story disturbs them, bothers them. We say slave mindset. Slave means, something happens, something breaks, something happens to job, it bothers. In the story, things happen in the story, and these invisible angelic princes, they are affected, which means they are in bondage. But they don't even complain about this. No one speaks that they are in bondage, which means they are not even conscious. They are unconscious. Invisible players are unconscious. That's why they don't even, no one is there to complain even that there is any bondage. And when the player himself is unconscious, if the master is unconscious, what happens? The enemy is in charge of the kingdom. So here the enemy, who is the enemy? Enemy is the ego. Enemy is in charge of the mind and life. Just like if some enemy was to be in charge of your town, country, it is not a good news. No? They spend so much time, they fight a war to remove the enemy. So here the enemy, which is the the worst enemy, ego, he is in charge of the life and mind. This is the diagnosis of the expert. And this is if you want to help yourself, it is the same scenario. And if you want to help anyone, it is good. Once you know the diagnosis, then you know the right steps to take. So where do you start? How to treat this planet Earth? The first step would be to make this invisible player conscious. That will be the first step. If he is not even conscious, whatever you speak, ego is the one who listens to it. Even if you tell him something, it is ego who listens, and ego is not interested, not seriously interested in all the spiritual matters. He just picks up some things here and there that can help him improve the drama a little bit. He interprets it in a superficial way. So the game changes if you make the invisible player conscious. Then the experience of the beauty and all will come if the beautiful soul wakes up. So right now, if we want to experiment with it for 1 minute, and then we can say even for 1 minute that invisible player is conscious, if we have the perspective of the invisible player. Just thinking of the soul, thinking of God, talking about God doesn't necessarily mean the enemy is removed. Lots of bhakti happens, ego-based efforts is very common. So let us create 1 minute now. So here the invisible player, okay, that's what we've been talking. Invisible traveler is visiting this world. He sees himself as an absolute guest in this physical world. And he has no familiarity with anything in the physical world. Further, he sees the whole physical world just like a performance, drama performance. The invisible player is very aware of his world, very fond of his sky and his true family of souls. He understands his independence from the physical world, independence from the story. He understands, the invisible player sees his independence from Prashant. Prashant, the body and the whole thing is within that story, temporary story. No different to Harry Potter story. And the invisible player understands his complete independence. He is separate from things of the story. Body and the role, the whole thing, it is within the story. The invisible player is conscious. He's very fond of his sky, his alokik family, his alokik home. his true father, all alokik, invisible, ordinarily is invisible, but for Paras, very obvious and vivid and normal. The invisible player is aware that he has got the best. His alokik world is the best. Every aspect is the best. And that he is lucky. Thank you. The moment you are addressing this, during this minute, this invisible player is conscious. Doesn't mean it will be conscious in 5 minutes later, maybe not. Even though we are talking here, you might notice the difference. Talking about soul, but still, suddenly the story becomes big and Prashant becomes high. So we can very easily cross the line. Know that happens and observe that contrast. But during the time the invisible player is conscious, you have addressed this situation of the unconscious state. During that time, you have understood the story, you are seeing the absurdity of creating bondages in it. If you do not have any desires in it and you don't think, you are seeing independence, your independence from it. In a second, you are free. Baba likes this word, second. Jivan Mukti in a second. All you have done is seen the independence of the invisible player from this entire story world. He's seeing the big map, big picture. There is no confusion. If you are aware of your true family and the true home and the true self, not just a true father and true home, but true self also, then you are not confused. If the true self, idea of self itself is in the story, it is severe confusion, not a small confusion. And the moment invisible player is conscious, enemy cannot rule. Why not? You can answer, and if you get the right answer, you get a prize. The moment invisible player becomes conscious, enemy is defeated. You don't need to fight a war. Biden will be happy. He won't have to send the army. Easy method.
So a lot around light, because it's light that wins over the darkness, and then there is awakening. Ravan disappears in the light, and ego loses his army. They can't coexist, light and dark. The soul is equipped with all powers. Faith and victory are the birthright.
You all deserve prizes. You should come to Cambridge now to collect your prizes. In essence, one can say, when the invisible player is conscious, it is like angel being conscious. And angel is powerful, more powerful than anyone else. Angel is definitely more powerful than the demon, as long as he's conscious. But if the angel is not conscious, then demon becomes the king. The game is like this. So all we need to do is create an environment, light, whatever that favors the angel. And that's normally people will say, angel, how can angel be unconscious? No, truth is this, only Ram, God, is the only one who doesn't cross the line. Otherwise, when we use the word soul, all souls are angelic souls. And we all cross the line. All are siddhas. Everyone else crosses the line. That includes prophets and sages, deities, everyone. And but they are angels, and if they become conscious, they are powerful. And it is like an instant. Enemy has no power. So something so strategic. I might encourage you to write these 4 words, because we need to know, since we are spiritual effort makers and we are also spiritual army of God, to help oneself, help others, know that this is what is going on. There is a confusion, there is bondage, and one whom you are helping, he is unconscious. And your words are more likely will be heard by the ego. That's why 9 out of 10 people don't want to hear. You are telling something so precious. Why they don't want to hear? Because ego is in charge of life. That is not a priority of ego. But if you want to break through, you may have to use your stage and your attitude and vision, because this bypasses the language. And our aim is to awaken one who is asleep. And that will happen through the light of truth. So that is in service, but also for the self. And let us understand this strategic step. When the invisible player is conscious, then all the language of Roop Basant starts. Until then, we can't use the word. Ego cannot be Roop Basant. Happy to hear some thoughts, any comments?
Yeah, a couple of questions on the ego. Is it possible for the soul, for a soul, to experience being conscious without knowing the word? For example, they may not be aware that it is called soul consciousness, and there are those who don't believe in the soul. Are they able to experience soul consciousness?
Deities are soul conscious, and they may not know the language. New souls are likely to be in that, and if not fully soul conscious, they are not heavily body conscious. So they may not have the language, and they may not know what exactly is going on. And as you said, they may not even talk about the soul, believe in the soul, but they can be soul conscious. But having said that, spiritual effort makers, Maya might tell us, you are soul conscious. You did not which may not be, which is Maya's prompt. For us students, we need to bring in soul consciousness with attention. The moment attention is not there, we drift into ego consciousness. But for deities, they are naturally. In theory, what you asked is true. They can remain soul conscious without knowing. But for us, we have to be extra alert and know that Maya can use this argument and keep us in body consciousness.
Okay, thank you. Helpful. Another question. Does ego get less when we expose it?
Absolutely. To expose it means you are creating light. Ego is a product of darkness. So if you are hiding something, that ego just wants that. You are not checking it. There is no introspection, and then ego will flourish. Ego will get bigger. But the moment you are observing it, it means you are shining light. And in the environment of light, and the ego dissolves. That should lead to the realization of absurdity. You are creating ego based on shoes. How absurd and how pathetic. You should feel it. If it is not seen, you can be talking about your amazing shoes and don't even know that there is ego behind all this.
Okay, that helps. Yes, we should expose. I liked what was mentioned earlier. It is with understanding that we remove ego. There has to be the realization and also seeing the absurdity. And we will, it's much easier through understanding in that way to let it go.
Okay, maybe I will ask one question. You can answer and you will get prizes again. Which ego is difficult to remove? We said we got ego based on many things, ego based on your position, ego based on shoes, ego based on religion, and ego based on your hat. There are all kinds of people, position, possessions. So which ego is the most difficult to remove?
One has said the biggest, the spiritual ego, or maybe all of them. Body conscious ego, ego of the raw, the BK1, soul consciousness, or the one that says I'm the best, the beggar mentality, the one in bondage, the one connected to ideas, thoughts, opinions, the victim.
Good. The word I would have, you will get prize if you were to say ego that you have not seen. If you are in denial about certain ego, then it will not go. You are not shining light there. For whatever reason, it can be just a denial, or you are not using your intellect to see what is going on, or situations have not come. No one has crashed you in that area. And so ego is very comfortable and hiding there. But you need, all these impurities will not go if you are not seen. Only with your permission they go. You have to see this, and that's why we said Jnana Yajna. It is the sacrificial fire of knowledge. With knowledge, it is one is knowledge of the God and your supreme world, but that contrast helps you to see here also with knowledge. And as was said, you should feel the absurdity. That contrast helps you to see absurdity, whether it is ego or whether it is attachments or whether it is vices. If you don't see anything is wrong, it will not go.
Do we trust that the drama will provide situations that expose these ego?
We can create a contrast, and that is our method. And that is through knowledge. And if I have not learned through knowledge, then drama will, of course, the final destruction comes. So there will be, out of these 8 billion souls, there will be some who are waiting for pain to teach them.
It's a much better way to create contrast, so then you're more sensitive to the small signal rather than waiting for the big pain.
Yes.
There's a question, how strong is the connection between physical disease and disharmony and the ego?
100%. Ego is the cause of all problems at all levels. Is the only cause. Ravan is the cause of all evil. That's why when Ram comes, he just needs to remove Ravan and he creates heaven.
Wouldn't a psychotherapist help in revealing the hidden heads of ego, is the question.
Ordinary the psychotherapy that exists at present, they don't see soul consciousness. And they, even those like transpersonal psychology, they talk about the soul, but still they say the ego should be all together. Ego plus soul consciousness, they all should merge. And some confusion they create. They do not speak of, if they are not talking about soul consciousness, there is no other method to remove the ego. That's why it becomes a temporary fix. It doesn't solve the problem fully.
One question, how does one learn to trust?
To trust what?
Probably another person, but I'm not sure, maybe one who wrote the question could.
Don't trust anyone.
It's a bit like when you learn to drive, you just assume that everyone is potential, do something random.
This drama, it is unpredictable. It comes with a label. It is unpredictable. So don't trust anyone there. Trust God.
What about yourself? Because we all want to, our instinct and how to progress.
Is that a question?
Well, I'm not sure, but someone may have that question.
Trust oneself. We don't trust in a superficial way. We want to know knowledge and understand the truth, and based on truth, then you approach, because we can get some random idea. We don't want to just trust it.
Extra comment, the trust so that one can release the unknown controlling aspect of ego. I'm not sure about the question, don't know.
Maybe at a personal level, we can discuss if it is important later.
And when we are soul conscious, is it trust in the original nature of the self? As someone else's question.
Sure. Still trust may not be the word. When one is conscious, you are seeing it. It is just like someone wakes up. He knows who he is, which family he's from. He feels what he is able to do. He knows it. It is like knowing rather than trust when one is conscious.
Yes, thank you. So it may be a good time to pause for rooms, unless you would like to complete, and after that create a question for reflection.
Yes, and the good area for us to understand is how to make the job easy. Since you are the expert, you are invited by the president. What is your answer? How are you going to help the patient? Patient is planet Earth. What is your quick method to help your special patient?
Say how to make this job of rescuing the soul easy?
Sure.
Or how would you put it?
To help him from this illness. We spoke of these four areas of the illness of planet Earth. So that includes all the souls.
Okay, how can you make this job of removing the illness easy?
Help the patient.
Yes. Okay, that's great. And so we'll have just under 15 minutes, if it's a possibility to allow time for everyone to share. Sometimes it means we have to be a little bit essenceful, but it's a nice chance to meet each other. If you can come in camera, that's always great. And we'll meet back soon, and we'll be joined by Didi Sudesh also. So enjoy, see you shortly. Well, welcome back. And Sudesh Didi is almost with us. So we're just going to create a moment of reflection, and then we will be greeted shortly. So inviting a moment of meditation together. Very warm welcome back, and it's a great pleasure to be welcoming Sudesh Didi, who's I think currently in London and normally based in Germany, and was around in the early days of the Yagya, and he's in world service, just finished a session, so she has come at fast speed, but we have about half an hour, so really looking forward to this opportunity. So good evening and warm welcome, Sudesh Didi.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Greetings to all Roop and Basant. What are we today? What are you today? What am I today? Today, every day, every time, everywhere, in my eternal form, in my original existence. What am I? What is the meaning of Roop and Basant? There are many different stories in scriptures which are connected with very special powers, specialities. One of the story of Roop Basant is that a stepmother did not want this child because he was a crown prince. But as the stepmother came in, she did not want that this prince should become a crown prince. She compelled the king to send the prince away in jungle. And the prince was left in jungle alone. But a saint, a rishi, a yogi, nobody knew who he was, what he was. But this holy man recognized the aura, the vibrations, the energy, and adopted him. And this little boy was being brought up in that environment of tapasya, silent vibration, a beautiful energy of matter, nature. All around, nothing else but great joy and harmony in nature itself. This is what the child absorbed. But this child had faith. Who do I belong to? Remain unshakable, immovable, and was blessed to be, when he would smile, the fragrance of flowers will vibrate in the atmosphere. And when he will speak, the jewels of wisdom, of inspiration will emerge from his lips. And that will blossom the life of others. He got this blessing through his own tapasya, his own dedication. And then he became so shining, ever bright, that it became the North Pole star, ever bright, ever light, near the moon. It's called Dhruv, means unshakable, immovable, constant energy, silent energy, still energy, but full. Silent. So Roop means the power of silence. And Basant means the power of bliss, of happiness, vibrating joy. It is just like the seed in its seed form is still. But the energy of this seed is empowering the whole tree. Expression of greenery, flowers, fruits, and returning to the seed again. And so Roop or Basant is the story of the cycle of time of the soul who starts the journey from eternity, from the soul world, and expresses its potential in the form of a divine energy, divinity. Divine energy in drishti, divine energy in words, divine energy in vibrations. And it's called Divya Swaroop, means the energy in itself, Roop. Roop means form, but in itself, it has no form, it just exists. It's the energy which exists in silence. But it vibrates. It gives experience. And it expresses in its joy. It introduces what this energy is. And that is bliss, truth, Anand, Basant. It is called spring. From silent atmosphere of a seed winter, underground blossoms in spring form and transform the atmosphere. This is the combined energy of the mind and matter. But it's the real energy is of Roop. Roop means it has its existence, but does not have physical features. But it gives the power to the physical features to introduce what this Roop is. It is just like you say, it's very pleasant. It's very pleasant. It's nice air. Where is nice air? Cool breeze. Where is cool breeze? Cool breeze exists with its quality of pleasant feeling, which is touching your form and you feel so relaxed, fresh. Now this breeze, it is filled with vibrations, coolness, nice fragrance. Nice fragrance. Where is fragrance? You are connected with the flower, but fragrance is not the flower. Flower has a roop. Fragrance does not have a roop. Fragrance adopts its form to give roop to others. Means that when you fragrance, you smile, you become happy, you vibrate a nice sweetness, very sweet. What is sweet? Where is sweetness? Sweetness itself does not a roop, but it has a sweetness. That is, even the dumb person speaks what sweetness is. Even dumb person can show is a sweet or is bitter. So it is actually this, the silent energy is a very pure energy which vibrates in the form of vibrations. And the more it sits in it, it's a power. And so Baba says in now godly language, in Murli's language, Roop and Basant are twins or couple or combined energies. These Roop and Basant are twins, exist together. Roop and Basant are two brothers, and Roop and Basant are actually combined energy who work together. And that is incorporeal Shiv Baba is Jyot Swaroop, embodiment. Does not have a body. Roop means God is point of light but does not have a roop, does not have a form. Formless and yet 1,000 forms. Soul is just an existence point of light, but it has a manifold manifestations of its energy. And so this, our incorporeal form and God's original form of almighty silent energy and sweet silence. Taste it. What you feel it. It's so close to you. It gives the taste of silence that you begin to enjoy it. You like it. The more and more you practice and you have the taste of silence and you begin to enjoy that deep silence. You don't like clock ticking. Take off clock. You are thinking, please, can you switch off? Please, can this clock be silent? You tell clock be silent. This silence is because you know the value of silence is a very special energy. This taste. But this form, this sweetness, it takes you in. You go deeper and deeper. So your form of this energy is actually connected with highest higher source, but it is going to your own source, yourself, deep within. Where? Deep within, not only just your feelings. Feelings may be fleeting, but feelings going deep in it, sitting in your heart. This thought, this form is now powerful silence, deep silence, still silence, stillness, solid. And so this is connected with your original sanskar of your own form, a point of light. Akhanda Jyoti Roop. Akhanda means it is not disturbed. It is not influenced. It is not any upheaval. It's a solid state of diamond. You begin to recognize this is your sanskaras. It's nirvana. You go in, but you are also connected with this. It's no sound, and yet it's a sound experience of freedom, of power, of stillness, of strength, of bliss, because that is truth. Truth is silence. Truth does not need to speak. But when truth speaks, makes a speaking person silent. Falsehood loses its power. No matter how many arguments, no matter how many excuses, no matter how many blames and situations, but truth is truth. And so Roop is my original eternal form of truth. And that truth is bliss. Bliss. You blossom, you enjoy. So it becomes still energy, opens itself. Silent energy awakens itself. And it's active, but without any show. It's vibrating without any external support. It's internal power. So this is the soul when it is in bodiless stage. In the world of Brahma element, in its supreme home, it becomes the balanced energy to be in the body and go beyond body. Stay in the body, come in the body, remain beyond body. Use the matter, go beyond matter, doesn't matter. No matter whatever is happening, doesn't matter. Because the inner energy is still and full. And because it is full, it's unshakable. Full. This is what it is, close to perfect, silent stage, nirvana stage, liberation stage. Perfect in its own quality of original truth. Roop. So God is Jyoti Swaroop. Light manifests itself without speaking. Doesn't speak. Light, we speak. When the light is lit, light does not say, hey, I am here. Others speak. Oh, light is there. The sun is shining. The sun does not say, hey, I am shining. Oh, the sun is shining. The clouds are disappeared. It's a golden red light. Sky is smiling. Sky is smiling and we are smiling because this blossom, this truth is appeared. The darkness is gone. And so when God enters Brahma's body, then he plays the part of Basant. Just like seed, when has a fertile land, blossoms, expresses itself, fruit, flowers, vibrations, energy. It is not only energy, it is energy for the body, energy for the mind, energy for the health, energy for sustenance. And so God, in its incorporeal form, is Roop. And I, the soul, as child of the Supreme, King of Kings, the one who is ever royal, ever divine, ever elevated, highest authority. That's why King of Kings, King of Kings. And he calls us Raj Dulare, princes. How I am prince? God does not wear crown. Does not sitting on another throne, but he told me, Crown Prince, my lovely Crown Prince. I'm Prince because of the king. It's a king of purity. And silence maintains when purity exists in it. Silence remains silent when purity exists in it. And it is a pure Brahma element energy. Pure Brahma element energy exists forever. The soul exists forever and God exists forever. That is Roop. Jyot Swarup. Shant Swarup. Peaceful. Shant is not only silence. Shant is not only peace. It is deep satisfaction, coolness, stillness, coolness, calm, clear, crystal clear. This kind of silence is Roop, and that's God. And we are God's children. When we are in perfect soul conscious, our all these 5 qualities, God, wisdom of wise, expresses later, but first silence. But makes me say silent, you can be silent only without you remember. You are not just a soul, remember who you are, which soul you are. Not only I am a soul, not I the soul, am pure and peaceful. First purity, then peace. When purity is there, it's peaceful. Patience is there. Coolness is there. And your heart opens to share it, the truth. Bliss is there. Love is there. So this is, then when God enters Brahma Baba's body, he becomes Basant. And he creates Brahma's Basant, like Basant as well. This is why it is Shri Krishna is always in garden, in playing flute, dancing with happiness. It's a bliss, it's joy. Anand, Anand. So silent Roop is Sat. When it is becoming living, means living in this corporeal form is expressing itself. When the living energy is living, it's expressing. And because it is expressing its truth, it's expressing its love, it's expressing its benevolence, it's expressing its transformation, mercy. So we soul are in the company of the truth. We also become Anand Atvar Basant. The seed with other elements create Basant in the atmosphere. Expansion takes place. And so you share with others, you create Basant. Means pleasant summer, pleasant spring. Everywhere spring and spring. It's not only flowers of spring, it's water is a spring. In the air, it is a spring. In the heart, it is a spring. And it is your springing, singing. And this is what it is. Your heart sings the song. Wah, my Baba. Wah, my fortune. Wah, my bhagya. Wah, re main. And this song is Basant. It's a pleasant time of the confluence age. So Roop and Basant become companion at the confluence age. And so we, the soul and body, our power of silence and our power of truth, sharing for benevolence, for upliftment, creates blissful feelings. So Basant, garden, fragrance, fruits, flower, flow of energy, spring everywhere. So in the spring, you swing. In deep, powerful, blissful Anand, you swim. So what is Surupa Basant? Heart is silent, but it starts singing. Ocean of bliss, love expresses itself for benevolence, and you swing. You swim, and this singing and swimming becomes a swing for you to go up and down without fluctuating. So continue to sing, swim, and swing. Swing in the swing of supersensual joy. Swing in the swing of supersensual joy. That is Basant Bahar. Anand, Anand, Anand.
Didi, we have one question. Shanti. I know we've come to time. Can you hear me okay? You can hear?
Okay.
Is it okay? So a very quick question, if it's okay. Do you understand, how do you understand that the end will be the same as the beginning? If you have an answer in essence, would be lovely to hear. How do you understand the end will be the same as the beginning? There's one question. I think you answered it in actually.
Yeah. How you understand the end would be beginning?
Yes.
Beginning of what? Beginning of what? In fact, it is end and beginning. Beginning present itself to finish end. The day begins to finish the darkness. Beginning of happiness, beginning of purity, beginning of love. Start gradually ending all what was not in it. Beginning is end. Beginning is end. And that end is beginning again what I want to begin, what I meant to maintain for a long time. And so, beginning of soul consciousness is end of body consciousness. Beginning of God consciousness is end of ego consciousness. Beginnings of love consciousness is end of hate consciousness. Beginning of acceptance and appreciation, end of rejection. Beginning is the end which we want to end. Otherwise, you try to bring end. There is no end. End comes in, but end does not come. Stay in eternal consciousness and begin with your original energy of silence and bliss, end of the old. But first beginning, first it comes to establish, then destruction. Om Shanti.